Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast with host Kat Ward. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast, paranormal talk with heart and soul. Tonight's segment is pre-recorded, streaming on United Public Radio Network, 107.7 New Orleans, 105.3 the Gulf Coast, YouTube, and any place you find your favorite podcast. You already know I'm Kat Ward, your host. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time. So the waters of Okanagan Lake in British Columbia, Canada hold secrets, and whispers of strange beings echo through the forest and mountains of British Columbia. For segment 54, I'm honored to welcome friends from the misty shores of Victoria, BC, Andrea Bailey and Lorianne Souls, part of Unearthing Shadows Paranormal. This dedicated team investigates, researches, and documents encounters with the unknown. So tonight, Andrea and Lorianne will take us deep into the mystery, also the mists, of Ogopogo. That's British Columbia's very own Loch Ness-style legend, along with other chilling tales of BC paranormal weirdness. Good grief, tripping over my tongue. Please join me in welcoming Andrea and Lorianne. Hello, ladies.
Hello, Kat. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for being on. Hi. Sorry, I was tripping over my tongue in that intro. Good grief.
That's okay. Ogopogo is quite the word, that's for sure.
I can read out loud, really.
No.
So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about every segment that I do, but because I've been to Ogopogo Lake, I went fishing with my grandparents in BC many years ago and didn't know about, I think I was a teenager then, so that was a long time ago. I didn't know about the legend at the time, and then my grandmother's like, oh yeah, maybe we'll see Ogopogo, and I'm like, what do you mean Ogopogo? And she told me, and I'm like, really? So we went fishing on the lake, and I did catch a lot of fish, but I was also looking, I'm like, oh, are we going to see him? Are we going to see him? I never did, but yeah, so this is pretty cool. We're going to be talking about at least one place that I've been to. So this is really, really exciting. So if you ladies, before we get into that, if you could give us a little bit of introduce each, cheapers. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the moon. I don't know. So if you could introduce yourselves, please. Andrea, would you like to go first?
It's Friday, right? We're all on Friday time. So,
yeah, we're pre-recording on a Friday. So yeah.
It's not a Monday, because Mondays have more issues, so we're good.
Sure.
But yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Andrea. I am the founder and lead investigator of Unearthing Shadows Paranormal, and our team, we do primarily focus on the ghosties, but we actually are quite interested in anything to do with the paranormal, like cryptoids, I guess a little bit UFOs. I'm probably not the biggest fan of them, and just really any kind of weirdness, we'll definitely dip our toes in. And
awesome.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about us.
Lorianne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Lorianne, and I'm mostly the researcher as well as the ops manager for Unearthing Shadows Paranormal. I often like to be more in the background and diving into the internet or books or whatever I can find to find stuff. My problem is I get distracted very easily if something else catches my attention. But the Ogopogo, I remember being a kid, my parents would tell us all about it. We'd go camping around Okanagan Lake, and sadly, we never saw the Ogopogo either.
Yeah, too bad. Andrea, I just want to know if you could mention the other teammates, since they unfortunately were not able to make this recording. Just mention them, and we'll give them a little shout out.
Absolutely. So the core of our team, we actually have a lot of amazing people that kind of work with us, but the core of the team is the four of us, which is me, Lorianne. We have Jennifer, who's been one of the investigators since the start of the team, and then Angela, who's also an investigator, and she does a little bit more of the analytics of but we all investigate together, and everybody's pretty amazing. And we definitely we try to do things together, but as life gets us a little bit busy, they hopefully will be here next time.
Yeah, I hope so too. They're sorely missed. But this was short notice as well. So thank you, ladies, for making time for this short notice. We just discussed it last night. So thank you.
Hey, happy to. We appreciate the opportunity, and anything, us, any weird conversations, we're here.
Awesome. So where would you ladies want to start?
Well, we could happily touch base about like the Ogopogo. I mean, like we know like, the Loch Ness is kind of like the big one in the world, but our Ogopogo, and we actually have more than just the Ogopogo. Like we do have two specific ones here on the island. So I don't know, Lorianne, if you want to jump in first about the Ogopogo, or if you want me to start off, I'll let you choose.
Well, I'll start off. Oh, sorry, you meant you. Sorry.
No. I was just gonna. I didn't know who she was talking to, but Lorianne, take it away. It's okay.
Sorry. Here I am, just blah blah blah. I'm a little nervous too, but anyways,
we're just in our virtual living room chatting about paranormal stuff.
Okay, cool. So really, the Ogopogo, as you know, is believed to be a serpentine creature, like snake-like skin, kind of dark. Some say it has humps on its back. Some say it doesn't. It lives in Okanagan Lake. There have been. May I go back? It's. I lost my train of thought. Shoot.
It's okay. No worries. And I called it Ogopogo Lake earlier. I knew it was Okanagan Lake. I apologize for I misspoke.
No, I know. That's okay. But I guess I could say that it's a rich, I may pronounce this wrong. It's an indigenous name, the Naha-Atik, and it means water demon. And it was given by the Silvics Okanagan nation. So if I pronounce that wrong, I apologize to that nation. There's been many sightings in regards to it. Andrea, can you give some dates? Because I realized I didn't have the dates on my notes here.
I would say probably in the past, like since COVID, there hasn't been a ton of like reported sightings, but there were like in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, like there were a lot more notable sightings. There are groups that go down there, and there are some considered like Class A and Class B sightings of it. Not a ton, but there definitely are some. The problem with that lake in particular, like the Okanagan Lake, like it's a network of like 5 major lakes, and it's the biggest one. So I mean, it's very easy for this serpent to disappear. It's also, and I cannot for the life of me. Sorry, I won't jump into it. Lorianne's probably going to talk about it, but a lot of there's been sightings since like the late 1800s, and probably even, my understanding is even decades or even longer than that before that, with like the First Nations groups. And then when like, a lot of the Europeans started coming into BC, I think it was around like 1870s, if I'm remembering correctly. Sorry, I'm just trying. My mind's a little bit foggy on the Ogopogo, but I think it was around like the late 1800s to like the early 1900s, when there was like an abundance of sightings, and people are like, "What the heck is this creature? Like, we've never seen anything like it." And there's always kind of been ups and downs, but back between like the 60s and the 80s, again, there were definitely a lot of sightings. And I think part of the increase in sightings too is, when somebody has a really good story, then everybody kind of runs down to the lake to try to take a look. So that's the best I can give you for dates.
Well, I was even thinking that because I was a kid, and this will probably date me, in the 1970s too. Yeah, because that was all that was ever talked about whenever we went camping in that area, was the Ogopogo and the excitement of possibly seeing it in the lake. So that would be the early 1970s and the mid 1970s. And yeah, like Andrea said, in the late 1800s, that was some of the original recordings of the Ogopogo in the Okanagan Lake. And I guess there was some footage that they got in the 1960s, if I recall.
Right.
Yeah,
Andrea?
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it
there
was
was.
68 or something like that, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date, but I know what's interesting, I'm wondering, it would be interesting to figure out why there are less sightings now than there was from the 1970s and going up to the 1990s. I like what is the difference between those time frames? Like, were we more naive and innocent? I don't know. Or I don't know. You would think we would be able to find more with all our phones and our
I
cameras.
sometimes
Yeah.
wonder too, though, pollution, right? Because we know there's a decrease in fish, so it makes you wonder if
Oh, that's sad.
Mhm.
it is. But I
I
don't know.
wonder too if, because I know this has been discussed with a lot of scientists who have used sonar and everything to try and look for Ogopogo, but I'm just wondering if there is kind of like tunnels leading away from BC going someplace else. They hang out there for a little bit, like they migrate type thing, and then every few years, whatever, they go back to the Okanagan Lake. I don't know. That's just a thought throwing out there.
You never know. I mean, especially with those networks of lakes, like there could be a lot more underground caverns or perhaps tunnels or whatnot that they could dive into. I mean, those lakes still aren't 100% researched, right? So like there probably is still a lot unknown or a lot of hiding places they aren't aware of. And it is a deep lake too.
What I was just going to mention is that often we hear, like I know there's a place in China and Vietnam, as well as where somebody's gone into a cave and it's like a whole ecosystem that they've found. And I'm sure you've come across those articles. So who's to say what's going on in those lakes? Like if there's tunnels or anything where they, like you said, they could migrate to and, get away from humans because we're annoying and then migrate back to where, back to Okanagan Lake. But yeah, if we think that there's those fascinating caves where they have their own, not only their own ecosystem, their own weather system. So definitely tunnels could be underneath the lakes, letting them chill out for a while in different areas of BC, maybe even further.
They even mentioned, was it last year or this year? I don't remember, but recently that there's a whole new ocean under the crust that's more water than on the surface here. So that's amazing. So we don't know what lives there.
No. So there's so many fascinating and unique things that are out there that we really have no idea, do we?
I definitely think of Jules Verne whenever I hear about that other ocean and movies like what was it? There was a King Kong versus what's the big dinosaur in Japan?
Godzilla.
Godzilla. I love Godzilla. So there was a movie, and then apparently there's a whole world under there someplace where those races are there. So kind of makes me wonder.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Andrea.
Canadians were too polite, eh?
Yeah. No doubt about it, eh?
And yes, said eh.
Let me grab my Timmy's.
Well, actually, I have a Timmy's mug.
That's a great mug.
No, I was just going to quickly comment on, even if you just think about like, what is it? Something like 1,000 new species of animals, bugs, birds, like, a combination of life form is found every year. I think it's 1,000. Maybe don't quote me on that, but still it's significant. And that makes you wonder, like, why not? Like, why couldn't these creatures exist? Just because like we fear them or don't understand them, it doesn't mean they don't exist.
We do know more about the moon than we do what's under the water, so.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy to think? Like,
it is crazy.
So I have a fun fact that I found out that I didn't know about. I think it was in the 1800s, the BC government, it's a little known law that says that you cannot, you're forbidden and it's illegal to hunt the Ogopogo or Sasquatch, you need to be blind.
I knew about the Sasquatch. I didn't know about Ogopogo. That's
Yeah.
interesting. How old? How old's that law?
1800s.
1800s. Wow.
Yeah, I think it was the late 1800s, and I was like, that can't be right. But yet you're not, because there's the possibility that they could be alive, which means, yeah, it's yeah.
That says a lot. If they actually made a law, because I'm sure they wouldn't make a law if they didn't know that it existed. Do you think maybe?
I don't know. I thought it was odd. Sorry, go ahead, Andrea.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Sorry about the delay, right? Well, here's something interesting that ties into that, like with Vancouver Island having like two versions of the Ogopogo.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
1937, there was a bunch of whalers. Unfortunately, that practice used to happen quite a bit between here and Lake Haida Gwaii.
Yeah.
And there's two versions of it. There was a story about that somehow this carcass of our Sanichosaurus or Cadborosaurus was found. And then there was another story about it was pulled out of the inside of a whale. That story seemed to be a little bit more believable. So the whalers brought it in and gave it to the World BC Museum here in Victoria, who actually studied it, but then it went missing. And to this day, there's no reports on like where did it actually go, but there is confirmation that the museum did get some serpentine type remains, and they did it.
That's interesting.
So it does tie into the law as being like, well, there does seem to be some supportive evidence here.
Kind of like the Smithsonian, things go missing.
Well, yeah, look at that. What was it? It wasn't a brontosaurus, but it was a big dinosaur, very similar with the long necks there. That's another story I'll tell you about. Apparently we have a dinosaur like that here. But it was in one of the Ontario museums, and that dinosaur went missing for 30 years or something, like all of those bones. And then they finally found it. And it was like, how do you lose something that size?
Did they say where it was?
It was in the museum, but I guess it was like scattered around in all these boxes. And I think there were some pieces missing, and they had to pull some from like another dinosaur. But yeah, apparently it had been there all along, but it just went missing.
Maybe they didn't catalog it properly, and it just, where's this box type thing.
Oh, man. If the Royal BC Museum, I'm calling out to you, if you would just let me for a weekend, just come rifle through your your undisplayed specimen area, it would be my glory.
That would be amazing. Fly me out and I'll go too.
Sure. We'll organize it, we'll color coordinate it, we'll make sure everything is documented. Like,
right.
No offense to those who live there, but it would be fun for us. Or not.
It would.
It would be fun.
So does the other creature that's similar to Ogopogo, does it have a name?
Yeah, so probably the more famous one that's somewhat widely known as the Cadborosaurus. I think it's associated because it was first seen and commonly seen off of a Cadboro Bay, which is, how to explain that to people who don't know, it's a township like just outside of like Greater Victoria. Okay. So essentially it's part of Victoria. Very beautiful area. Cadborosaurus has been seen, it's very similar to the Ogopogo in the size, where it's, been seen from anywhere from like 16 feet up to around 50. 50 is more common. Same thing like with the humps, horse-like heads, darker skin. It's seen fairly commonly around the island, all the way up to like the Haida Gwaii. There's been reports even up to Alaska that people have seen it, and often it's like fishermen, boaters. Back in the day, the whalers, the First Nations have a lot of stories and history and beliefs on them. The other one is the Sanichosaurus. I personally believe they're the same thing, just given different names. That one was more commonly seen like in the Saanich Inlet. But I remember a story from, again, it's one of those things where like there probably hasn't been as many sightings over the past, I would say 10 years. But when I was a kid, so let's 35, 40 years ago, somewhere around there anyways, I remember hearing stories about like, we lived out in Sydney, and Saanich was like the neighboring town, and there were a lot of protected, quieter beaches, and people would say they would see like these serpentine creatures all the time, and there were eggs. There was one beach in particular, and that's where I've been wanting to take my team so we could just go take a look. But apparently eggs washed up on the shore, and they seemed reptilian, like almost like bigger snake eggs.
Wow.
Nobody knew what they were, from the stories, and I can't verify this, but from the stories that I was told and heard, that they were taken to be studied, and they were unidentified creatures related to some kind of serpent. So that always seemed to be like a hot spot for where people would find these weird eggs. And I've heard other stories too, maybe not in that much of a detail, but just people finding weird things or seeing things off the coast. And so, yeah, but it is interesting though, because around, those are the three main ones that I know of. There probably are more, because we've got stories of the saltwater serpents and the freshwater serpents. So I find that interesting that they're being seen in both. A lot of people do believe that they're, I think it's, I always forget what those fish are called, sturgeons. Like there's, you know, which would be more of the freshwater. I mean, our oceans here, like we do have huge salmon, we do have some eels, we do have like dog sharks, but nothing that really would be mistaken for that type of a creature. I mean, we do have whales and whatnot, but I don't think people would mistake that for what the
I don't think so either.
So yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, it's interesting. That's one that really gets me excited, because I've always wanted to see it, and unfortunately have not yet, but I don't know. Why not, right? Like, I mean, it's not really that far-fetched. I mean,
even in Ontario, we have Champy from Lake Champlain. It's another serpent, sea serpent. So it makes me wonder, you know, are there more in Canada?
I bet you.
There probably is, yeah.
The other thing that I find interesting too, like in like the Okanagan Lake, for example, like it freezes over every year. So it kind of has made me wonder, like you say, are there more maybe in the cooler temperatures? So, I mean, we're pretty mild here on the island, but still our oceans, they do get pretty cold. Like I wouldn't want to be swimming in them in December, that's for sure.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they migrate south and then they come back up.
Maybe.
If there's tunnels, I don't know.
I wonder what their age span could possibly be too. I mean, could there be you don't see some for 20, 30 years? Is it because the actual living one passed away, but there's eggs still there and it hatches, and then, I don't know, just another thought. We don't know the lifespan.
Right.
Yeah, that's a curious thing, isn't it?
It is.
And the other thing is, like, there are some like documented cases of them, like with some decent footage. Like, you know, unfortunately everything, especially like when they were really seen like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, like we didn't have great cameras and everything's always blurry. But I mean, like they do look very prehistoric. So, you know, are they just some form of like a dinosaur that didn't evolve?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a plesiosaurus or something.
Yeah. Like
something like that.
Why not? Like it could, you know, my childhood mind wants it to exist. So
yeah.
I remember years ago I watched this movie. It was taking place in Scotland at it was a cute little movie. This little girl actually found Loch Ness, and they were friends, but she kept it a secret from everybody because, you know, once a creature like that is going to be found, for sure, of course it's going to be hunted. They want to study it, and studying usually means dissecting, so that's not a good thing.
That's why. Oh, sorry, Laura. You go ahead.
I was just saying maybe that was why the law in BC evolved or became, because that is what humans do. We don't understand something, and we will dissect it and try and figure it out, even if it's the last living or known species.
Yeah. It's kind of sad.
It is.
That would be my hope, that there's some protection of them, because I mean, I think secretly that's why I kind of quietly am happy when these things are not found, because in that
me too. Yeah,
we're not harming them.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice if some scientist could actually put like a tracking device on it to see where it's going, and just isn't. Maybe it's a top secret study. I don't know.
Yeah,
but we want to know.
There's definitely, I find when it comes to those creatures compared to like, the Bigfoot or the Sasquatches, there's way more groups and like intellectual organizations and scientific organizations that do seem to invest more in the Bigfoot for some reason. So I'm not a bit curious, but I would think it's probably easier to do studies and whatnot on land than it would be ocean. So that might have something to do with it.
Probably because you have to factor in storms on the ocean. I mean, they can get really brutal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And the ocean, like you've mentioned, the ocean is quite deep and we have no idea.
Yeah.
Like when you start going into like Mariana's Trench or whatever, or the different trenches, they are so deep that there's no way you can send really cameras or anything down there. You just got to wait till they resurface.
And our technology is just not there for these vast underwater studies. So
I do know that I can't remember if it's Canada and the United States, but I do know that I think it's the Navy. They would attach cameras to seals because they can dive a lot deeper, just so they can, like, they're trained, obviously. That would be interesting. Wonder what they found there.
We'll never know.
No, we won't. So all these sea serpents, they're all pretty much the same description as Nessie?
Pretty close, yeah.
Pretty close, yeah. Could be the same one that just moves. I don't know. You never know.
Well, the environments are pretty similar, like here to over in the UK, like climate-wise, and like oceans and lakes and so on. So it would make sense that we would have similar creatures.
Yeah. Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, we need to do some camping trips and boating trips, I think. But yeah, those are like, I mean, we've got all kinds of, like, here in BC, like stories on various paranormal or just weirdness in general. Like there's a lot of great folklore, and potentially true things. But yeah, I would say like the Ogopogo Cadbrosaurus, like those serpents are one of the big ones, along with like the ghosts, like as we talk about quite a bit. We're pretty well known for that. But one thing I feel that maybe is a bit, we maybe don't get as much credit for is like Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Like there's huge abundance, like enough that like our university here on Vancouver Island, like they've done expeditions and they do annual studies of Bigfoot. So that tells you something.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. You bet.
Wow. Maybe after they graduate from their university program, the government hires them.
Maybe. Yeah. There is, I forgot his name who led it, but they did hire somebody to work with UVic. And in 2023, they had a huge expedition and they were able to get, like most of our stories here on the island, like I'm Southern Island, you really don't get reports, around Victoria, Sydney, Nanaimo of Sasquatch. And people do call them Bigfoot, but around here it's more of a, more commonly known as Sasquatch. But yeah, you don't really get too many sightings, if any, in the Southern Island. But there is an abundance of sightings and belief, like mid-island, and also the the western side of the island, like Souk, Port Renfrew, Tofino, Ucluelet, lesser populated areas, heavily wooded areas. I'm guessing the Northern Island doesn't have as many reports just because it's not very populated up there. There's smaller towns. And when you get up to like the north end, there's really not much up there. So I'm guessing in reality, like there's probably more of an existence of them up there, but it's just nobody sees them. But yeah, and I'm sure Lorianne knows some stories about the mainland. Some of the
Honestly, I Bigfoot is not my favorite, and and I'm not. I just, I'm interested in the stories, and I often think that because they are so hard to find, and you often hear indigenous populations, there are often a lot of stories about them, and I just think that I feel like if they are there, the indigenous population is respectful enough to let them be. So maybe not by hearing their stories or them talking about it is part of their folklore or part of their respect of nature and being a part of nature. Sometimes I used to think that maybe the Sasquatch or Bigfoot was part of, you've heard of the evolutionary where they have the Gigantopithecus, that it was
Yep.
just a offshoot of an ongoing evolution offshoot of that particular, I don't even like calling it an ape man, but that particular species. And that would interest me because I think that would be exciting to find out how could something that big live that long and not be discovered or definitive proof. I mean, it's not my favorite cryptid, but I always love hearing stories about it. I think it's very intriguing, and I hope that it's never discovered because I think science would have a heyday with it. So I was very happy to see that law. Keep reading, but yeah, I think just respectfully, as much as we would like the proof of it, I don't know how as human beings we would react to it if we did find Bigfoot or, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I didn't mean to get deep there, but that's sort of that's what goes on in my head. I mean, it's not my favorite. It's just I kind of, respectfully, I'm going, they probably don't want to be discovered. The indigenous population, if they do know, they're not telling us.
I don't know if you've heard of a gentleman. He's originally from BC. He lives in Washington State now, I believe. Thomas. He is Indigenous, and I had him on the show before, and he talks about Bigfoot as people. He doesn't think that they're chimps or anything like that, offshoot of that. He believes that they're just another tribe of people. And he says if you see one in the forest, he'll just say, "Oh, hello, brother. I'm sorry. I mean you no harm." He talks to them like that. And then he always has peaceful encounters with them, apparently. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting beliefs on them. Like I know some of the stories that I've heard, and it seems to be a new favorite in the theories, is that they're time shifters. I personally don't believe that, but I also am not an expert on it. But who knows? I guess anything could be possible. But yeah, some of the stories and folklore you hear around them is quite interesting. I mean, one of our major hotspots is on the mainland. It's probably, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe outside of Vancouver. Harrison Hot Springs is kind of like the BC capital of Sasquatch. And, they've had some pretty notable sightings there. The one thing in our favor, though, that does protect these animals is that, BC is a pretty heavily, in most parts, forested, and mountainous areas. So there's lots of places for them to hide. And if you think about it, it's not very common you find deer or bear carcasses. So it would be very easy for them to not be detected too. So it is good in the sense that they do have these protections. And also you get little trends too, in I guess it was Renman Island, Parksville. No, the Campbell River.
I've been to Campbell River.
I think it was around 2018. I think there was there is an abundance of stories. Like that's the place you want to go on the island for salmon fishing. I mean, really anywhere you go, pretty good, but they're really known for like the big guys. It's very forested, protected, lots of places for water, and so on. But that year in particular, there were so many reports of juvenile Sasquatches. Like people were getting really good photos, sightings, and it just seemed to be almost like a summer camp for the youngins.
Yeah.
But it is interesting when you start following these trends and when you actually can attach some science to it, being like, well, it is plausible. I mean, it makes sense. Like they've got the food, protection, water, shelter, like not heavily populated by humans. So probably a good area. But Kat, I think you'd be really interested, and I'll send you some links about UVEC and their studies, because they do have some pretty, I find it interesting, Class A and Class B footage of like video, photos, feet imprint of these creatures. And I mean, if they're putting money into it, I would think that there's some basis for believing that these things exist and whatever they are.
Or there's something else there, and they have the story of Bigfoot to try and keep people away. I don't know.
Ooh.
That could be it too.
I remember going with my grandparents to Nanaimo and Campbell River, and we went fishing, and that was the first time that I saw seals in the wild, because we're fishing and the seals were following us, grabbing the fish off our lines, and there was so many trees in the water. It reminded me of the old show Beachcombers. I don't know if you two are. I was just like, wow, this is just like Beachcombers. I was all excited, but I was able to pet a seal, which was really cool. You know, I was like, Granddad, look, the seal is. He's like, yeah, well, kiddo, I'm sorry to tell you, but he's after the fish. Like, doesn't matter. I still got to touch one. But that was pretty cool.
They're neat. Yeah, there are puppy dogs of the sea.
Yeah, all those little eyes. Yeah,
they're cute. Yeah,
I know.
We're really lucky to live here. Like it's a very BC in general, but especially the island here. You know, whether you live here or visit here, it's a pretty special experience, because there's just whatever you want or think you could find, you will find it here.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular. There's so much green space. And going back to Campbell River, I was there 2 years ago, and I don't remember it being, and I don't use this lightly, but it was very ethereal and magical out there. Because with all the islands and then there was the fog and the mist, and it was just, I don't remember that. Like a kid, I don't remember that. And I was just like, wow, this is some good stuff, magical stuff happening up there. So that was just my perspective on Campbell River.
I've only been to BC twice in my life, once in my late teens and once again about 10 years ago. And my heart belongs to BC. Like, it's so beautiful, the mountains, and it's so grounding, I find, like, especially in the Okanagan Valley. Oh, I wouldn't want to live there in the wintertime because it's so steep when you're driving. It freaks me out, but it really is beautiful.
It is.
I mean,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, it's just a nice thing about BC. I mean, like, there's a uniqueness to it where there's commonalities, but also some individualisms depending on what area you're in. But I mean, I think we live in a pretty great province. I think all of Canada is amazing, just so nobody yells at us, but BC is really something of its own.
Well, I remember my grandmother telling me that BC actually has partial deserts. And I was like, what? Really? I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And here on the island, we're rainforest. Few people know about that. So, but us who live here, we would agree. It is very rainy.
Yeah. Wow. So what other weirdness is there in BC? Whatever your favorites are.
Well, we have a dinosaur here too.
You do?
Yeah, there have not. I can't say I've heard of reports since I was a child here, but we have the what the heck is the name? So I was going to call it the Cadbrosaurus again. It's apparently we're not very good with picking names for things, but it's called the Sanichosaurus rex is what is commonly referred to. But there's a couple lakes sort of close to each other. There's two lakes, Elk Lake and Beaver Lake, that are attached. Essentially, it's like one big lake. Mm-hmm. It's been seen around there. Again, not an overly populated area, but there are definitely houses and farms out that way. And then Prospect Lake, which is really close, like kind of on what runs through those areas of the lakes used to be like the main highway, but it's just kind of a two-way road right now. But on the other side of those lakes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes away, is Prospect Lake. All this information I'm sure nobody cares about. Anyways, within that area,
just in case we want to, make it out there, okay?
Exactly. Trying to be a trip planner here. But yes, this dinosaur, which I'm a little bit skeptical on. I would really love to believe it's true, but there have been sightings. I don't think there's a lot of credible evidence out there, but of this animal that is similar to like a Bronchiosaurus, like, one of those very long dinosaurs with a long neck. So that's kind of what our Sanichosaurus rex has been seen. I think about the 80s, the sightings kind of died down a little bit, but there's also more development out there, but who knows? But I really want it to be true.
I do too.
So a living one.
Living ones, yeah. Apparently there's a whole family of them just wandering through the forests, and I really would love it to be true.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be.
Yeah.
But did you know, and I didn't know this, that there were actually 2 mermaid sightings in BC.
I forgot about those, yeah.
When was that?
Well, let me tell you.
Well,
1967, in active past, there was BC ferry passengers saw this mermaid. Maybe it was a ferry mermaid. She was sitting on the rocks at the entrance of Active Pass, just outside of Victoria. Am I correct on that? Active Pass. And she had long blonde hair, lower body of a porpoise, and she was sitting there on the rocks eating salmon.
Wow.
I know. I was just like that. I've never heard of that. So now I'm totally curious as to what's going on there. But, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was like 58 years ago. That's amazing.
Yeah. And what's even more interesting, a guy in an aircraft was passing by and got a photo of it. And it was put into the Times Colonist newspaper. And it was a black and white photo, I think, but all the passengers that were on the ferry all disappeared, so they didn't really confirm. But yeah, I guess it's in the archives or something that you can look at this picture.
So they disappeared from the boat, or?
No, they couldn't back up the story, but there is.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, that would have been way cooler.
I know. I was going to say, was there like the siren song, made them drive in and.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Not for them, but.
Not for them. That would have been awesome. And then I guess, I think it's the Mermaid of Point Grey. So that would be near UBC.
What part of BC? Where?
UBC. Point Grey is like a community just near UBC, and there's a lot. Yeah, and
UBC is the big university on the mainland.
Yeah, sorry, University of sorry.
And no, at first I thought you said youth or something like that. I'm like, what? I've never heard of youth BC. It's just okay. My old hearing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I think it was between the 1870s and the 1880s. And there were 3 men who were out in a boat with an indigenous guide. And they were off Point Grey, which was near UBC. And that's where they saw the mermaid. And she had, long blonde hair again. And she had raised her body above the water and was staring right at them. And the indigenous guide was like, "Oh man, this isn't good. This is a bad sign." Because I guess down on Squamish River, another indigenous guide saw the mermaid and he died a few days later.
Oh,
Yeah.
so interesting.
They don't have a good lore around them. Like usually they're perceived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I didn't even know.
Nasty.
Yeah. So I didn't know there were actually mermaid stories in BC about, so I thought that was really cool. And now I have to dig deeper. So
no kidding.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I tend to forget about them because it's another one of those things, like there's definitely the lore and people who go looking for them, but it's not really widely spoken about. I mean, I do remember it being pretty popular back in the 80s, because I remember when we were kids and we were always like, let's go find the mermaids, and our parents were like, no. But I think it's, for some reason, I don't know, maybe everybody's out trying to find that stupid Sanichosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, there's just so many amazing things you could hunt for, in BC. It's such a cool thing. Like, you got your mermaids, if you want to go find Bigfoot, dinosaurs, ghosts, water serpents, like
sea serpent,
anything you can think of, like, we have. So, tourism BC, come to BC, come to Vancouver Island in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And I'll show you around.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty great. I mean, I don't know, if you like the odd interests, like, this is definitely the place to be. I mean, like, the other nice thing about it, like, I mean, there's a lot of people who don't believe, but you're not kind of shunned if you do believe in this kind of stuff. And there are a lot of really fantastic groups that really are dedicated and put the efforts into researching and going out there and getting credible evidence. I mean, it's just full of the weird and wonderful here. I mean, my mind just spins because I just keep thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, we have the portals too, and like the time shifting and this and that, and like, just it's endless here.
Talk a little bit about the portals.
Well, the one portal we have is the Shelburne one, and actually that is coming up usually in October. There's two thoughts or different beliefs on it. One is that it was just like a marketing gimmick. The other is, like, a lot of people do believe it, but it basically, if you're walking down Shelburne and there's like a certain stretch of Shelburne, people who live in the apartments there today will say that they will hear like horses walking up a cobblestone road, and we'll just hear sounds that aren't really typical to this day and age, but more of like the late 1800s to early 1900s. They'll look out the window. Sometimes they'll see, being like, oh my gosh, like, how did the asphalt road turn into this dirt road or cobblestone?
Yeah.
And just like that, it'll snap back. Usually it's quite late in the morning or early in the morning, like usually between like 2, 3, 1, kind of that area. So a lot of people then tend to point fingers and be like, well, did you just come from the bar? Like, did you have So
yeah,
that one has been really hard to get credible evidence. But however, like, even up till now, like, you can get a lot of people saying, yeah, I experienced it, I saw this or that. Like, the whole street will just quickly turn from like the modern day town to like farms. Like, all of a sudden, like, all the houses will disappear and you'll see these vast farmlands, horses, buggies, and carriage, where people will just like go past you and kind of look at you, and then within an instant they're gone. That's most of the common stories that you're told, is that the houses change, the sidewalks and streets change to either dirt roads or cobblestone, or something that would be more typical to the landscape of like the late 1800s. Yep. But yeah, generally it's October, usually the later weeks of October. But yeah, it's been an ongoing story since, I think.
Interesting.
I think the 60s. I think that's when it was first reported, mid 60s. So
I had something similar to that happen to me here in my little town. So there's this one road that it's a very, very long road, and it takes you to the Highway 17 in Ontario. So I'm driving, and there's an intersection. So you have the road, you have the highway. If you go straight, the road continues. So I'm approaching the set of lights because I want to go onto the highway. And all of a sudden, just for a split second, the highway wasn't there. It was just the straight road that I was driving on. It was all treed. I saw a horse and buggy, and I just kind of went like this. And then I was back to where I was. I was just like, what the heck was that? So I reached out to the ladies on the team that I'm with. I'm like, has anyone ever heard of anything happening like that? That's never happened before or since. It was the weirdest thing. It was just like that.
Wow.
It's like a glitch in time almost. It's great. I do find that quite interesting. So
yeah,
I think maybe we'll have to put a bit more effort into going down there this October to see if we can get any evidence. Like, we've been down there quite a bit. I can't see there's definitely a weird feel when you walk down those certain stretches of the road.
Wow.
Never know.
Well, it's like I wanted to look more into it. The spaghetti factory in Gastown here. They have 4 ghosts that are often associated within the spaghetti factory. But one of the stories,
spaghetti factory, interesting.
Yeah, there is a talk about a vortex in behind, like in the back. So I wanted to look more into that because I thought that was this triggered that memory, and I was going, yeah, I wanted to look more into that because it's associated with one of the ghosts that they see. So I wonder, yeah, and because the spaghetti factory is in Gastown, which is hugely haunted, makes you wonder. Like hearing your story and then this other, it's really quite curious.
I should message. I had a guest on the show many years ago when the show first started. I can't remember his name. Dan. Anyways, he goes by the Vortex Detective, and he just researches vortices all over the world. So I have to ask him if he knows of any in British Columbia.
Yeah.
If he doesn't know too much, those 2 might be something he might be really interested in, because this Shelbourne one, in the one Lorianne's talking about, there's definitely people who can provide some good stories on that. So
very cool.
UFOs is another big one. I think it's another one that I don't think is talked about or acknowledged as much activity as we actually have. Having UFOs around here, but like especially the island here, like this, they really are attracted to the island here for some reason, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it has something to do with resources or there's theories about connections with the governments. It's a good place for them to hide. Like, I don't know, but like, I mean, I've even had first-hand encounters with them. I'm not. That is not my favorite paranormal topic, because I just think of how horrible we are as humans, that I can only imagine what the aliens would do to us. So I just like to pretend that doesn't exist. But I mean, like, we get it all here. Like, it's for anybody who's really interested in researching UFOs, seriously come to Vancouver Island, and there's a lot of hot spots here that you probably within a short period of time in one night, you would get some credible evidence. So
I have one of my cats here. It's just like, what was that? I think I saw a UFO way back when I was visiting my grandparents. They'd taken me, I don't remember where, but I remember we were driving back to West Bank where they lived, and we're on the highway. It was dark, and my grandfather was driving, and to the left, we saw this light. It was so weird. It kind of looked like it came down and then come towards us. And I thought there was a road there. I thought maybe it was a vehicle. My grandfather saw it too. So my grandfather's, I said, did you guys see that? And they're like, yeah. I said, oh, was it maybe a truck or something? He says, no, that's just a field. There's no road. The next day on the radio, all kinds of people had called in to say that they saw this weird light. So I can't say for sure that it was a UFO. Obviously, it was unidentified for sure, but that was really weird.
I'll send you some photos of like my personal captures, and like, yeah, I've had some weird experiences with them. Like I still have I think I told you about it before, that scar that I have on my arm.
Yeah.
That even the doctors asked if I had a
Keep talking. Sorry, I got to open the door for the cat. Okay, go ahead. So sorry.
No worries. Yeah, even I've had doctors ask if I had a surgical procedure there, because it was, just to tell the story really quickly, I was probably 14, I would say. And we lived out in Sydney at the time. And for anybody that knows the area, the back of our house faced like Sydney Island, which is a smaller island just off the coast of Sydney. And the airport's there. So I was always really bad, like, not going to bed early and getting up for school on time and watching the late show. And it was just after 12:30, because I remember the one show ended at 12:35. So I can tell you that was the time. And I went to it was still the summer, so the window was open. So I went to close the window and shut the drapes. And I saw there was 7 glowing orbs in the sky. And they were changing from like green to yellow to red to kind of an orange color, but it was within those colors. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't tired eyes, because you know how your eyes kind of juggle a little bit. Like we're talking about, these things would line up, and then all of a sudden they would do formations, like no sound. So that's when because at first I was just like, oh, or is it the military doing practices?
Yeah.
Because like there's no way a helicopter or an aircraft or anything that we as humans could develop could maneuver like that. Mm-hmm. But it literally like miles, and then they'd come back really quickly and form like triangles and squares and all these weird patterns. And I watched them for 20 minutes. I was scared S-less. Sorry, try not to swear in your show.
It's okay.
But no, it really did. And I wasn't really afraid of much, because I mean, I'd been dealing with like ghosts and weird things, like just crazy things since I was a kid. But for some reason, I would probably use the word petrified me. And I tried to bring it up, but nobody really wanted to hear me or believe me. Just, oh, you're by an airport. It's probably an airport. And I mean, like at 14, like, you know what you saw, right?
Yeah.
But the next day, I don't remember a lot. I remember kind of going to bed and being scared and just kind of covering under my blankets, which sounds ridiculous, but I did. And I don't remember a whole lot. And I really don't remember a lot of the next morning, but I do remember that afternoon, all of a sudden having a line on my arm, and it's about that big. Like I can send you a photo to show you, but like it's a perfectly healed scar. Nothing ever happened to me. I have no injuries. It was like a precision cut, because like I said, even the doctors, and I've seen a lot of them for I'm falling apart,
I feel your pain.
Would ask and say like, oh, did you have a procedure done there? And I've had x-rays and stuff like that, but not focused on that. But nothing has ever been brought up that they noticed anything really too weird there. But I was always curious to ask the doctor, be like, hey, I'll pay for it. Can we focus on this area? So that was one of my weird little stories. But even like, there's been things like a couple of years ago at the airport, so many people reported it. And even a family member who does not want to be named, well, 2 of my family members saw this like almost like black, huge black blanket kind of in the sky kind of come in, and it was almost like they said it was like kind of matrixing, and then it would disappear and then it would show up again. And I know other people associated to the airport or who lived around there reported the same thing at the same time, but nothing in the news. You ask officially the airport if they've heard anything, and nope, nothing. Right. So we've got things like that.
That's amazing.
Souk has a lot of weird reports of orange lights that kind of travel through the trees, and then they shoot up into the sky and just take off. Yeah, like, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but yeah, for anybody who's really seriously interested in researching UFOs, like, come to the island, because you won't be disappointed. And
sounds like a hot spot.
Unfortunately.
Well, ladies, we are at the end already. Before we sign, I know an hour goes by fast. Thank Thank you so much for being on here. Before we tune off, could you please tell the listeners and the audience where they can find you?
First, thank you so much for having us on. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
But if you'd like to find us, we would be happy for you to find us. Our website's not working right now, but when it is working, it's unearthingshadows.com.
Okay.
Our Instagram is at Unearthing Shadows Paranormal. Our YouTube, basically, if you search Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, you can find us just by searching Unearthing Shadows Paranormal. All of us as individuals, if you do want to search for us, you can find me at Unearthed Shadows. Lorianne, Angela, and Jen, you can find us all under at USP_ by their first names, and let Lorianne take it from there.
You know what's funny? I just had a brain freeze. I'm going, what is my...
That's funny.
Oh my gosh. Andrea, what am I?
USP_ Lorianne researcher.
That's where you can find me. Holy crow. It's like a Monday. But that's where you can find me. Oh my gosh. I'm running around doing too many appointments today. But that's where you can find me. And that's probably, I would say, would be my main account. My TikTok, yeah, it's there's nothing really exciting on there, but definitely my Instagram account is where you can contact me, send me an email, whatever you want. Go through my page. Or if you have questions, I'm always more than happy to answer them through there. But that would be my main way of getting a hold of me.
And if it's okay to plug this too, like for anybody else, Lorianne's a really amazing researcher. She finds a lot of information that is very hard to find. So if anybody has a topic, give her a shout. She is up for hire.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, ladies. If you hang tight, I'm going to say my farewells to the audience, and then if you have time, we can chat for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kat.
Thanks so much, ladies.
Thank you very much, Kat.
You're very welcome. Can't believe another hour went by. So a huge thank you to my special guest tonight and to you, my wonderful audience, for tuning in. I also want to thank UPRN 107.7 New Orleans and 105.3 the Gulf Coast for carrying the show. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. It truly means the world to me. And if you'd like a little piece of paranormal heart to call your very own, you can grab some swag, such as a Paranormal Heart mug. So just email me at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. Until we'll meet again, take care of yourselves and each other, sending all the love to you guys. Bye.